What most men never realize is that attention alone is not what makes a woman think about you. It's distance, timing, and a little bit of mystery. When a man becomes too available, too predictable, too easy to read, he unknowingly removes the space where curiosity is supposed to grow. And in modern dating, curiosity is everything. Today, I'm breaking down why being mysterious actually makes women think about you more, replay your words in their head, and even imagine things about you that you never said out loud. This isn't about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about understanding how attraction naturally builds when not everything is immediately revealed. Now, welcome. I want you to relax and actually follow this closely, because I'll be showing you real patterns men miss every day in dating situations. I'll also be breaking down small moments, behaviors, and communication styles, so you can see exactly what changes perception. Because here's the truth I've observed over time. The men who stay a little unpredictable often stay on a woman's mind much longer than the ones who try too hard to be understood immediately. And once you understand this dynamic properly, you start to see attraction in a completely different way. 1. Why predictability kills attraction. What most men don't realize is that the moment they become too predictable, they also become easier to ignore. Not because they did something wrong, but because nothing about them creates mental tension anymore. And attraction, especially in modern dating, lives inside that tension. When a man always responds the same way, shows up the same way, and reveals everything about himself too quickly, there's no space left for curiosity to breathe. And without curiosity, interest slowly flattens into routine. She already knows what you'll say, how you'll react, and what your next move will be. That might feel like comfort, but comfort is not what keeps someone mentally engaged in you. Let me be clear, consistency is not the issue. The issue is emotional predictability. When she can map you out completely in her mind, there's nothing left for her imagination to work with. And imagination is where emotional attachment actually grows. If there is no mystery, her mind doesn't replay conversations, doesn't revisit moments, and doesn't wonder what you meant. I've seen this pattern repeatedly. A man starts off interesting, slightly unpredictable, and she pays attention without even trying. Then slowly, as he tries to be more available, more understood, more safe, the spark begins to fade. Not because she dislikes him, but because her mind stops engaging with him. Attraction doesn't die loudly. It fades quietly in familiarity. The more she can predict you, the less she feels pulled toward you. And that is why understanding this dynamic changes everything about how you show up. 2. The psychology of curiosity. Curiosity is one of the strongest emotional triggers in attraction, and most men underestimate how deeply it shapes how a woman thinks about them. When something is not fully understood, the mind doesn't leave it alone. It keeps returning to it, trying to complete the missing pieces. That is exactly where attraction begins to form. Not in certainty, but in uncertainty. When a woman cannot fully figure you out, her mind starts doing the work for her. She replays conversations, rethinks your tone, and sometimes even assigns meaning to things you didn't intentionally mean. This isn't manipulation, it's psychology. The brain is wired to close gaps, and when you become one of those gaps, you stay mentally active in her thoughts. Now here's where most men get it wrong. They believe being understood quickly is a good thing. So they explain everything about themselves early, they try to be emotionally transparent too soon, and they remove any sense of depth that could have developed over time. But once everything is already known, the mind stops exploring. Curiosity needs space. It needs contrast. It needs moments where she thinks, I'm not sure what he's thinking right now, or I can't fully place him. That slight uncertainty is what keeps attention alive longer than constant clarity ever could. Think about it like this. People don't obsess over what they already fully own mentally. They obsess over what feels slightly out of reach, not unavailable, just not completely figured out. So when a man understands this, he stops rushing to explain himself and starts allowing space for interpretation. And in that space, curiosity grows. And where curiosity grows, attention follows naturally without force. 3. The power of withholding. Too much information. One of the most misunderstood ideas in modern dating is the belief that the more you share, the more connected someone will feel to you. But in reality, over-explaining yourself too early can reduce intrigue instead of building it. When everything about you is immediately accessible, there's nothing left for her mind to slowly discover over time. Withholding information is not about being secretive or distant in a negative way. It's about pacing. It's about understanding that attraction doesn't grow in full exposure, it grows in layers. When a man reveals himself gradually, he creates depth, and depth is what keeps attention from fading too quickly. Think about how people naturally get hooked on anything interesting. It's never because everything is shown at once. It's because details are revealed over time, allowing the mind to stay engaged, to anticipate, to wonder what comes next. The same principle applies in human connection. When you tell everything immediately, you remove anticipation. She doesn't have to think about you later because she feels like she already knows enough. But when you reveal parts of yourself slowly, you create mental checkpoints. She remembers what she learned about you, and at the same time, she becomes aware that there is still more to learn. And this is where emotional interest strengthens. Because now, you are not just a person she met, you are someone she is still mentally exploring. Even small gaps in your story or personality become interesting, not confusing. The key is not silence, and it's not withholding for the sake of control. It's intentional pacing. It's allowing space between what she knows and what she wants to know next. Men who understand this don't rush their presence. They let it unfold naturally. And in that unfolding, they stay on her mind longer than those who reveal everything in one go. 4. Emotional space and imagination. One thing many men don't fully understand is that emotional connection doesn't only grow from closeness, it also grows from space. When a woman is not constantly receiving your attention, her mind doesn't just move on the way men assume it does. Instead, it starts filling that absence with thought, interpretation, and imagination. Emotional space is where attraction becomes internal. When you're not always present, she begins to mentally reconstruct you. She replays moments, rethinks conversations, and sometimes even creates meanings you never directly said. This is not confusion. It's the brain trying to maintain emotional continuity in your absence. And here's the interesting part. The version of you she builds in her mind during that space is often more emotionally amplified than the real-time version of you in constant interaction. Why? Because imagination removes limits. It doesn't deal with routine or repetition. It focuses on feeling, memory, and impression. When a man is constantly available, there is no space for this process to happen. Every moment is already filled. Every silence is immediately closed. Every gap is quickly removed. It feels stable, but stability without contrast doesn't stimulate emotional depth. On the other hand, controlled distance creates emotional tension. Not negative tension, but psychological engagement. She starts wondering what you are doing, how you are thinking, and where you fit into her mental space. And those questions keep you active in her attention even when you're not physically present. The mistake is thinking closeness equals stronger attraction at all times. In reality, emotional connection needs rhythm, presence, then space, interaction, then reflection. Without that rhythm, nothing has time to settle in her mind. Men who understand emotional space don't overfill every silence. They allow moments to breathe. And in that breathing room, imagination takes over. And imagination is often where attachment quietly begins to grow. 5. Controlled presence versus constant availability. Let's look at a simple real-life situation. Imagine a woman in a relationship with a man who is always there. He replies instantly. He checks in constantly. He fills every gap in her day with his presence. At first, this might feel comforting to her. It feels stable, familiar, even reassuring. But over time, something subtle begins to change in how she perceives him mentally. Because when access becomes unlimited, value starts to feel emotionally diluted. She no longer has to wonder where he is, what he's doing, or what he might say next. Everything is already available, already expected, already predictable. And in that predictability, emotional tension slowly disappears. Now contrast that with controlled presence. This is not about ignoring someone or creating distance for no reason. It's about having a life that does not revolve around constant availability. The man still shows interest, still communicates, still connects, but not in a way that removes all space between interactions. In relationships like this, the woman still thinks about him when he is not around. Not because she is uncertain in a negative way, but because there is room for thought to exist. She wonders what he is doing. She reflects on their last conversation. She anticipates the next one. That anticipation keeps emotional engagement alive. I've observed that the men who maintain this balance are often remembered differently, not because they are distant, but because they are not overly accessible. Their presence feels intentional rather than automatic. And here's the key point. Attraction doesn't just come from being present. It comes from how you are present. When presence is controlled, it carries weight. When presence is constant, it loses contrast. In relationships, balance is everything. Too much availability removes curiosity. Too much distance removes connection. But controlled presence keeps both alive. And that is what keeps a man mentally relevant, even when he is not physically in the moment. In the end, mystery isn't about playing games. It's about understanding how attraction actually works on a psychological level. When a man doesn't reveal everything at once, when he allows space, rhythm, and controlled presence, he naturally stays more present in a woman's mind. Not because he is forcing it, but because her thoughts are engaged, not fully satisfied. That balance between knowing and not fully knowing is what keeps curiosity alive. And when curiosity is alive, attraction doesn't just exist in the moment. It continues even in silence, long after the interaction has ended.